So, you've built your very first screen in React Native. That's awesome. You've got some text, maybe a button, a huge first step. But how do you get from that one screen to another? Well, in this explainer, we're going to chart the course from a single static view to a full-blown multi-screen app.
Right now, your app might look great, but it's kind of like a lonely island. And to build a real user experience, you need to build bridges, right? Pathways to get from your home page to a profile or from a list of products to the details page. So the big question is, how do we actually build that flow?
Here's our game plan. We'll start with why a single screen just won't cut it. Then I'll introduce you to your new best friend, a navigation toolkit. We'll do a quick 3-step setup, and then the fun part. We'll dive into the code. And finally, we'll wrap up with a recap of the core ideas to make sure it all sticks.
Okay, first up, let's really talk about why we need to think bigger than just one screen. What are the limits of having just a single view?
I mean, just think about any app you use every single day. Instagram, for example. It's not one screen, right? It's a whole collection of them. You've got your feed, your profile, DMs, the search page. For any app to be truly useful, a single static view just isn't going to work. We need a way for users to move between all these different parts, and that's exactly what navigation is for.
So, how do we solve this? Well, that brings us to our toolkit. And the go-to solution, the one everyone in the React Native community relies on, is a fantastic library called React Navigation.
The central idea you need to grasp with React Navigation is the navigation stack. And honestly, the analogy is perfect. Just imagine a stack of playing cards. Your home screen is that first card on the table. When you want to see, say, a details screen, you don't swap the cards. Nope, you push a new card right on top of it. And to go back, you just pop that top card off, and boom, the one underneath is right there. This push and pop idea is everything.
All right, so that's the theory. Let's get our hands dirty with a super simple 3-step setup. We're about to get your project all ready for navigation, and you'll see it's actually really straightforward.
Okay, pop open your terminal. Here are the 3 commands you're going to run. First, you install a core library, @reactnavigation/native. Simple enough. Second, you install its dependencies. Now, pro tip, always use npx expo install for this, because it's smart and it grabs the right versions for your project. And finally, you install the native stack navigator itself. That's it, 3 commands, and you're good to go.
And now for the really fun part. Let's actually write some code. Section 4, Coding Your First Stack. This is where we see how all those pieces we just installed come together and bring our screens to life.
When you crack open your code editor, you're really only going to be working with 3 key ingredients from this library. You've got the navigation container, the create native stack navigator function, and the stack.screen component. Let's break down what each one actually does. First up, navigation container. Think of this as the big boss. It's a component that you literally wrap around your entire application. It doesn't actually show anything on the screen itself, but it's absolutely crucial. It's the brain that keeps track of everything, what screen you're on, your navigation history, everything.
Okay, next, you'll see this line of code. Create native stack navigator is a function that gives us our navigator object. You can think of this as actually creating our deck of cards. This stack object is what we'll use to define our screens and manage all those push and pop actions.
So how do we use that stack object? Easy. For every single screen in your app, you'll define a stack.screen. It needs 2 really important props, a unique name, this is just a string, like home, and the component prop, which points to the actual React component for that screen, like your home screen.
So how do we actually make it go? Well, inside your screen components, React Navigation automatically gives you access to a navigation prop. To go to a new screen, you just call navigation.navigate and pass in the name of the screen you defined. But here's where it gets really powerful. You can also pass data along for the ride. See here? We're going to the details screen and sending a name with it.
And to complete the circle, the screen you navigate to gets another special prop called route. All the data you passed is tucked away inside route.params. So on our details screen, route.params.name would give us Abhishek. It's such a clean and simple way to pass information around.
Now, for any of you coming from a native iOS background, this probably sounds super familiar, right? In Swift, you push a view controller onto a UIOS navigation controller. Here, we're pushing a stack.screen. It is exactly the same idea. And the reason we use the native stack navigator is that it uses the real underlying iOS and Android navigation components. That's what gives you those buttery smooth animations that users expect.
You might be wondering, okay, great, but how do I go back? Well, Here's the best part. React Navigation handles this for you right out of the box. As soon as you push a new screen, it automatically adds a header with a back button. The user can just tap it, it'll pop the screen, and they're back where they started. No extra code needed.
But what if you want more control? Maybe you have a custom cancel button or something. Well, you can trigger that back action yourself from anywhere in your code. Just call navigation.goback. It does the exact same pop action as the default button, giving you complete control over the entire flow.
Wow, we have covered a lot of ground. So to make sure it all sinks in, let's do a quick recap of the core concepts. Think of this as your navigation checklist.
All right, here are the absolute essentials. 1. Install the libraries. 2. Wrap your whole app in a navigation container. 3. Create a stack with Create Native Stack Navigator. 4. Define each of your screens using stack.screen. 5. Use navigation.navigate to move around. And 6. Use route.params to grab any data that was passed. That's the entire lifecycle, right there.
So you've done it. You've broken free from that single screen prison. Your app now has pages, it has a flow, it has structure. But this brings up a whole new question. Now that you have all these different screens, how do they share information? How do they all stay in sync? Your app has screens, yes, but is it truly dynamic? Well, that's a story for another time. For now, congrats on mastering navigation.